Dr. Sofia M. Starnes is our first featured reader. She's a Virginia Poet Laureate Emerita. She's won over 40 different awards for her poetry and a literary doctorate honorable. And she's the author of 6 poetry collections, most recently, unless I know about missed one, The Consequence of Moonlight. Her work has appeared widely in journals and anthologies, and including the Best of the Decade edition of the Hawai'i Pacific Review. I would like her to come forward and read some poems for us. And thank you so much, Sofia, for coming, and welcome.
I appreciate that very much. I'll be reading 8 poems this afternoon, all of which explore a little bit or illustrate the sense of poetry being between the familiar and the uncanny. That's where I think my poems often begin. I look for reality, and I find that reality is actually somewhere between those two things, with something that's always determined to remain hidden and baffling, while other things are so obvious and right there, close to the eye. So this first poem is a very brief poem from The Consequence of Moonlight. It's titled The Other Room. And although it refers to the afterlife, it could also refer to those places where poetry takes us, very close and familiar on the one hand, but also very odd on the other. So this is called The Other Room. For this I pray, the room's proximity, whose distance is as venturous as kind, calm in the evenings, calling off a silence I know best in increments. I do not seek it, for after is a word, pressed, printed, turned leaf to leaf in company. For this I pray, our papered walls, linen and grass, to bare new walls attached, the hall, the piano, a welcome arch. Oh, hear the wind, the hustle gold of our forsythia spray, and eager feet, not far. So near and far, these are the characteristics of poetry, that so close that you can swallow it up. So far, there's always something that you want to reach. Maybe the distance or what separates us from the afterlife is just a veil. Maybe it's not so far away. Maybe it's just the other room. But sometimes the distance between one moment and another is even more radical. You never know what's going to happen that suddenly veers the direction of your life, somebody you meet that you didn't know just a minute before that you were going to meet, something like that. I was, as most of you know, I was born in Manila in the Philippines, but we left in a very abrupt way when I was a teenager during the Marcos dictatorship. One day I was in school, and a few days later we were on a plane to Spain. So this next poem tries to capture, in the classroom, I would look out the window in Manila, and there was a field, and there was always carabaos, these water buffaloes, muddy carabaos. And I don't remember when the last time was that I saw the carabao. And I left, and I didn't, you don't have that moment of looking at it very specially, knowing it's going to be the last time you're going to see that carabao. You don't have that. So that's what happens in life. So this is called The Previous Hour. And this one is from my first book. It's called The Commerce of Moments. Mud on the brown back of the carabao, mud on its rope-like tail, complacently determining the hour. Afternoon. The heat drew ribbons on the slopes, roads we rode on with our eyes. Is this all that we will ever see? Our previous hour, deprived of knowing how the sweat would dry up into clouds, and the dense scent of our weariness would turn into a languor of bone lotus on the bed. How the night we wore diluted on our backs, damp cotton clinging, the mat leaving square nibbles on our cheeks, would become next hour of blank light, amnesiac hour, never once recalling what the body and the soul foresaw. That afternoon of mud chills, hide of blistered arches, the full sun curdling, setting on its humps. These are images from childhood that can only go so far. You look back and try to think back, a memory farther back. I don't know if ever you've all tried that, where you keep thinking, when was the first time that this happened? When was the first time I knew this? Or when was the first time I saw? When was the first time I was aware of my mother or my father? This is a poem will take you to what matters most what matters most inside your heart. So it said digits. 5 for 5 fingers at the wrist, a way to count funerals, or the feasts unfurled around them. A holy numbering. Day, night. I think of other digits squirreled inside a peel, translucent tissue curled up close, clustering in a sun-kissed dance, gathering momentum. A gift of chance? I pry half moons out of the mandarin, tease its recreation of my hands, skin upon skin pressing. Oh, to be a nest once again.